On this episode of Canadian Football League Weekly, we're going to discuss the games played in Week 5 north of the border, where 2 teams are still undefeated and 2 more teams are looking for their very first wins of the season.
What the heck are you doing?
Welcome to Canadian Football League Weekly, presented by the World of Football, and we're recording in Adam's apartment today. My script is here, paper script.
Print your paper off?
I sure do.
I have a script on
I printed one for you too, but this is what we're reading from today, so bear with us. We're doing the best we can. Had some technical difficulties, and that's why I'm here in his apartment.
Yeah, but he wanted to get the show done. I wanted to get the show done, so he raced on over here, begging me to do the show here, and I said, sure, why not, I guess.
We want to start by saying thank you to everyone who's subscribed to our YouTube channel. We are now at 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, and we couldn't have been here without you guys, so we thank you guys very much for continuing to support us, because obviously we do more than just the Canadian League. You know, we talk NFL, CFL, arena football, indoor football, women's professional football, European football. There's so much football out there, and we are glad that everybody, there's something different for everybody, and that's what we aim to, give you guys out there.
All right, let's start with the games played in Week 5.
Should we start with that, or should we start with the fact that you said on this very show that every week you were going to wear a different CFL t-shirt, and here I see you wearing a Detroit Lions shirt, Randy. I am a little baffled at this, because I thought you were going to be a dedicated host of a show called Canadian Football League Weekly, and I stand corrected. He's got a BC Lions shirt on now.
All right, and on with the show. All right, starting Thursday night, the 4th of July, Saskatchewan Roughriders over the Toronto Argonauts by the score of 30-23. The U.S. and Canadian national anthems were both played during that game. I thought it was a very classy move. Canadian Football League didn't have to do that, but they did, and it was appreciated. Wide receiver Janarian Grant scored the first points of the game when he returned a punt 84 yards for a touchdown in the first quarter. Saskatchewan was up 10-9 at halftime after Roughriders kicker Brett Lothar missed field goals of 47 and 57 yards. At the end of the first half, the 57-yarder hit the upright. That was so close. Toronto tied the game at 20 apiece with about 10 minutes remaining in the game, but Saskatchewan cornerback Marcus Sales intercepted a pass and returned it 54 yards for a touchdown to put the Roughriders up for good. Saskatchewan quarterback Shea Patterson completed 15 of 23 passes for 192 yards and a touchdown. He also scored a rushing touchdown. Running back A.J. Ouellette had 67 yards rushing, while wide receiver Samuel Emilus had 3 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. On defense, cornerback Roland Milligan Jr. had 2 interceptions. For Toronto, quarterback Cameron Dukes completed 19 of 33 passes for 206 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. He also ran the ball for 47 yards. Wide receiver DeMonte Coxey led the Argos receivers with 5 catches for 76 yards. Toronto has now lost 2 straight after starting the season 2-0.
That's right. It was a tough couple of games here for the Argos.
Yeah.
This game specifically. I don't know how long you watched this game. I caught this game after some of the turnovers, and I was surprised Toronto was even in it as close as they were, despite having the 4 interceptions. Saskatchewan, though, behind Shea Patterson, a bit of a surprise, but he had the bye week to get to work with the team, and he came out, looked pretty good, kept the Riders undefeated. So I don't know. This Rough Riders team could be a team to watch out for, and we'll see. As they wait to get their regular starting quarterback back, a name who I'm blanking on it at the top of my head right now.
Zach Colaros.
That's a different team. That's the Blue Bombers. They're talking about the quarterback that got hurt for Saskatchewan. I forget his name at the top of my head. Apologies, obviously, as we're doing this on the fly.
Yeah.
But look, Saskatchewan, congratulations. Like you said up top, awesome about the national anthem. Doing it both the U.S. and Canadian together. So good showing. Anything else from this game for you?
No, that's it for me.
I guess also, real quick, Cameron Dukes, I don't know what's happened in the last couple of games. He's kind of lost that little bit of an edge. I don't know if teams have finally figured him out. And we'll see. I don't know, is it going to be the quarterback when Chad Kelly decides to come back from a suspension, or when he gets allowed to come back? Are they going to give him a little time to, prep before just throwing Chad Kelly to the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah, no, Chad Dukes did really well the first 2 games.
Cameron Dukes. Not Chad Dukes. Actually, that's a whole different guy.
He did real well the first 2 games, and it's not looked well the last 2.
Yep. All right, moving on Friday night saw the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defeat the Ottawa Redblacks 25-16 to give the Blue Bombers their first win of the season. Winnipeg led 13-3 at the half, while Ottawa quarterback Drew Brown was injured late in the first half, replaced by Dustin Crum. Winnipeg was able to control the ball with their running game, and that was the difference as Winnipeg led most of this game. Look, Winnipeg quarterback Chris Stevler got the start. Strevler got the start for the injured Zach Collaros. He completed 13 of 21 passes for 127 yards, no touchdowns, but he also ran for 79 yards and scored a rushing touchdown. Running back Brady Oliveira ran the ball 23 times for 129 yards. He also caught 5 passes for 37 yards and was the leading receiver for the team, if you can believe that. Kicker Sergio Castillo made 6 field goals during this game, the longest of which was 53 yards. On defense, how about defensive end Hubert Owen, who made 3 tackles and also had 7 tackles for loss. That is pretty impressive there. For Ottawa, though, quarterbacks Brown and Crum combined to complete 10 of 17 passes for 127 yards, no touchdowns, and 1 interception. Crum also ran for 55 yards during the game, while running back Raquel Armstead carried the ball 17 times for 103 yards and a touchdown. Kicker for Ottawa, Lewis Ward made 3 field goals, the longest of which was 51 yards, so he's just booting it. And then on defense, linebacker Javon Santos Knox made 12 tackles. And then according to the TSN insider Dave Naylor, Drew Brown is currently in concussion protocol. This is something that came out earlier today as we're recording this. And his status for next week's game against Edmonton is not known at this time. How about the Blue Bombers, though, getting that first win of the season, getting that off their back? But they had to do it with the backup quarterback, getting an actual week of preparation.
Yeah, well, Chris Strevler has been mainly their backup quarterback with coming in on short yardage plays. He'll come in and run for a first down on 3rd and 1 or whatever. But he can pass, and he's been a starter before. He hasn't started a game since 2019, but he did well in this game. He did enough to win, and they tailored the offense around him and his running style. So it all worked out for the team this week.
Yeah, I think that was a big difference maker in this one because, like we were saying, that last game that he had to fill in for Collaros, it was more, the game strategy definitely wasn't for him to play more than, the short yardage situation. And it took him a while to kind of get warmed up and finally start slinging it. And that's when, they had kind of made it back. They got to overtime last week. And then I think now with a whole week's preparation, though, and you game plan, you plan around him being your starting quarterback, and that just changes the dynamic. And they were able to figure it out and get the win. We'll see how long Collaros is out. We're still not even sure about that. I don't know if it's week to week or if they're just playing it cautious. Who's to say? But I think getting the win for the Blue Bombers was a big thing to maybe start stacking it up. Yeah, they're 0-4. They were 0-5. Now they're 1-5, 1-4, 1-4. And so you can still start stacking some wins up. It is a long season here in the CFL, so they can still turn things around. We just weren't sure if this team was going to be the team we'd seen the last few years after starting 0-4. So
let's move on to the Saturday night game where the Montreal Alouettes defeated the Calgary Stampeders 30-26. A blocked extra point try was returned by Montreal for 2 points in the second quarter. Calgary was up 23-12 at halftime and led for most of the game. The Stampeders were up 26-24 with just over a minute to go in the game, but Montreal running back Walter Fletcher scored on a 31-yard run. A late interception by Montreal completed the come-from-behind win and kept the Alouettes undefeated on the season. Montreal outscored Calgary 18-3 in the second half. It is the 13th consecutive win for Montreal dating back to last season. Montreal quarterback Cody Fajardo completed 33 of 42 passes for 347 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He also ran the ball for 35 yards. Wide receiver Tyson Philpott had 12 catches for 135 yards, and running back Walter Fletcher also had 9 catches for 104 yards. On defense, linebacker Tyrese Beverette had 9 tackles. For Calgary, Quarterback Jake Mayer completed 18 of 26 passes for 106 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Backup quarterback Tommy Stevens scored 2 rushing touchdowns. Running back Peyton Logan had 65 yards rushing. Wide receiver Markin Michel had 7 catches for 59 yards, and wide receiver Reggie Beggleton had 4 catches for 21 yards and a touchdown. On defense, linebacker Micah Awe had 9 tackles. To me, these were the highlights of the week. This was a great game and a great highlight package. So many great plays in this game and a great ending to the game, even though the team I was rooting for, Calgary, did not win.
Oh, you're rooting against Montreal. Huh?
I was rooting against Montreal.
Oof. I don't think one of our friends is going to like hearing that.
Probably
no, this was a great game. I thought, when I tuned in, the Owls were down by a couple of scores. So I was like, I think it's interesting that Calgary's up, but I didn't count Montreal out. They're home, defending champs. They've been red hot lately, and I was like, they got some fight in them, and I feel like they're at least gonna make a good showing up at the end of the game. And sure enough, they did. Kudos to Cody Fajardo slinging that ball around. Phil Pott, the wide receiver there in Montreal, is absolutely killer. Might be one of my MVPs or most outstanding players for the CFL this season. He's been awesome all season long, and just this result shows exactly what this Montreal team is made of, and they're a team to be reckoned with. They're a team that you cannot count them out. You can knock them down for a couple of quarters. You could have a nice little lead there, but guess what? They're going to find a way to claw back and win. That defense for sure. The best defense in the CFL, in my opinion. I have no statistical evidence to back that up right at the top of my head. I just know, just the eye test, I see a great defense there, and that's also what helped them get back in this game. So, I don't know. Watch out for Montreal. I know it's early in the season, and anything can happen between now and the end of the year, but I don't know. Cannot count this team out. All right, and finally, the last game of the weekend saw the British Columbia Lions defeat the Hamilton Tiger Cats in embarrassing fashion, 44-28. BC was in control of this game pretty much from the start and never looked back. At one point, they led 14-1 at the end of the first quarter and led 34-11 at halftime. British Columbia quarterback Vernon Adams completed 26 of 36 passes for 383 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions, while running back William Stanback ran the ball for 82 yards. He also had 5 catches for 74 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Justin McGinnis had quite the game with 10 catches for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns, while teammate Alexander Hollins had 6 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. For Hamilton quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell, he completed 32 of 48 passes for 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Running back James Butler had only 27 yards rushing, but made up for it with 9 catches for 109 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Shamar Bridges had 6 catches for 87 yards. Look, this game was completely one-sided. Yeah. Hamilton, at one point, got a couple things going, but you knew that they were never going to make the comeback. At one point, when they got the 1-point try there, or the 1-point rouge, the crowd went wild. It was very reminiscent of the scene from Little Giants where they cheered for getting a yard. The fans were just, hey, finally, something, we got something. Yay.
Yeah, anything they could grab onto, they were excited for.
It was, I don't know, I felt bad, but I like the idea of the rouge. We've talked about this in the past where there was talk that the rouge might be taken away. They want to get rid of it. This is why you don't. I liked in that moment the strategy of the returner for British Columbia saying, do I take it at the 1-yard line and save us a point or save a point, or do I give them the point and we get better field position to just keep our momentum going? And at that point, they were up 14-0. So I think it was a smart move. Yeah, you give up the point, but you get some good field position to start a drive, and they just went from there. So I like that a lot, and that's what makes the CFL extremely special. And the one big negative I have from this game, other than the Hamilton Tiger Cats defense just not playing very good coverage and letting those receivers get wide open, was the ugly uniforms that both of these teams have. Look, I don't mind the jerseys or the uniform itself, I guess, for the British Columbia Lions. Not a fan of that helmet. That's just me. And I am definitely not a fan of those gray onesies and that helmet that the Tiger Cats were rocking. I'm sure it's special to the people of Hamilton, and hey, God bless you for it. I just thought it was ugly. It was very reminiscent. You said this. It was very reminiscent of the Lions gray onesie that they used to have. So
don't care for those either.
So yeah, just I wouldn't wear that again, Hamilton. I'm not a big fan. I mean, but who are we to judge? I mean, that's your thing. We're just a couple of Americans who, we don't live up there. We don't know the custom and tradition for you guys. But I mean, as much as we like the Tiger Cats, I mean, we've been to a few games. Tim Hortons Field is one of my favorite places to watch a CFL game. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, but I don't like change, so just stick with your regular uniforms. Your regular uniforms are spectacular.
They're pretty good.
Love those. All right, let's look at the standings after Week 5 in the CFL. In the Eastern Division, the Montreal Alouettes are at 5-0. Toronto Argonauts are at 2-2. Ottawa Redblacks at 2-2, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats at 0-4. In the West Division, the Saskatchewan Roughriders are at 4-0. BC Lions at 4-1. Calgary Stampeders at 2-2, Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 1-4, and the Edmonton Elks at 0-4. Now let's take a look at the Week 6 matchups. On Thursday, it's the Toronto Argonauts at the Montreal Alouettes. On Friday, the Calgary Stampeders are going to go to Winnipeg to take on the Blue Bombers. On Saturday, the Saskatchewan Roughriders go to see the BC Lions out in Vancouver. And on Sunday, the Ottawa Redblacks are at the Edmonton Elks. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are on a bye this week.
Yeah, so that means we're going to have at least one team still be winless by the start of next week.
Yeah.
So, hey, we'll see what happens there. But we've got a lot of good matchups this upcoming week. Yeah. Obviously, that Saturday game, Saskatchewan versus British Columbia, is what I'm looking forward to the most. British Columbia at home, we'll see if they can hand Saskatchewan their first loss. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see. But I'm very excited for that game of all the games this weekend. Very nervous about that Toronto and Montreal rematch. I am not excited for that one whatsoever.
Yeah, the Saskatchewan BC game, 4-0, 4-1. That's going to be a good game.
Heck yeah, I'm very excited about that one.
All right. One piece of news that we have: wide receiver and kick returner Lucky Whitehead is returning to Winnipeg. Whitehead won a Grey Cup with the Blue Bombers in 2019. Then he signed as a free agent with the BC Lions, where he's played for the last 3 seasons. He's been an unsigned free agent this season, and he has now been added to the Winnipeg practice squad. I love Lucky Whitehead. He's been a great player, and I was kind of wondering, where is he this year? I haven't seen him yet. Been with the BC Lions the last couple of years, and all of a sudden, he's nowhere to be found. He just hadn't signed a new contract, and he finally decided, I'm going to go back to Winnipeg. So, yeah, he's a great kick returner, great wide receiver. Glad to see him back.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I love, we'd always talk about the show on the podcast, and it would seem like every episode we had to talk about Lucky Whitehead. Yep. So very excited to probably start saying his name again. So looking forward to that.
A lot of great highlights from that guy.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
all we've got for this week. Remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody likes more football than we do.
So much, in fact, that he had to drive all the way to my place just to do this show. So
hopefully I won't have to do this again.
I hope you don't either.